I'm back with another breakdown video. New setup, new samples, new everything. Fuck it. So let's go. So I cooked this up today and I'm gonna go break it down for you guys now. So I've been listening to a lot of 70s records, a lot of 70s soul, and one song specifically stood out to me. So I kind of took inspiration from that song for the sample. So let's start with the piano, which plays these chords. Now the chord progression is nothing complicated, it's just basically a 1-5 chord progression. I went a little bit more in depth with the voicing of the chords themselves. We have a 7th, a G minor 7th, and then another variation is a G chord, but it's actually an A sharp 6/9. And then I brought up the same chord, I just brought them up like 7, pitched them down an octave, and then I flipped them the other way around. Piano I'm using is Addictive Keys Wide Stereo, and as far as processing goes, I'm using my usual piano preset, which is EQ, stereo shaper, and a little bit of reverb. Now moving on, I added the bass. Now as far as the bass line goes, I'm just following the root notes of the chord progression, and then in between I'm just adding these little accents and slides. As far as processing goes on the bass, we have the Basic Bass Pro preset, stock, I'm not touching anything, and then taking out some of the high end, and this is how it sounds on its own. I wanted something that reminds me of the song I showed you earlier, and I wanted to add some vocals, so I added these vocals. Real soulful vocals from Elements of Soul. Shout out to CIKI. I'm gonna put the link of the kit in the description. You can go cop it. It's an amazing kit, especially if you want to make some soul samples. And this is how it sounds together with all of the elements. I wanted to process the vocals a little bit, so I just took both chops and then I routed them to this mixing bus, and I boosted a little bit of the low end and took out the high end, and then I added this plate reverb. When you're making soul samples, you know, something that's gonna sound more vintage, you gotta use effects that they had access to back in the day. So in the 70s they didn't have digital reverbs, they only had plate reverbs and spring reverbs. You gotta keep this in mind when you're processing your vocals, your instruments. So if you want to go for a vintage 70s vibe, you should only use spring reverbs and plates. After that, I kind of went off and I just wanted to add some more instrumentation. So I went ahead and added this sax phrase. This phrase, once again, it's from Elements of Soul. You should really go check out that kit, it's amazing. Basically, this is how the raw sample sounds. So it's a little bit different, so I just took it, I chopped it up. As far as processing goes here, plate reverb, taking a bit of the high end out. Then I'm using this vintage plugin. All I'm doing is taking out the high end once again. I wanted to add some drum breaks, so I went with this. it kind of sounded too weak, so I wanted to emphasize it even more. So I went ahead and I opened Addictive Drums. I laid down this pattern, pretty much the exact same pattern as the other drum break, and I layered them together. So you can hear that now it sounds way more powerful, way more punchy. I added these effects, so I'm just boosting the high end and the low end of the kick. Then I added a little bit of Decapitator, 70s record preset. If you're doing drum breaks, this is the go-to preset. I use it on all of my drum breaks when I'm making vintage samples. Again, the vintage plugin from Cymatics. And after that, I just went ahead and added this vinyl texture. The most important part is the master preset, the master mixing, vintage preamp, compression, since a lot of these records are compressed, tape saturation, because again, everything was recorded on tape, the vintage plugin, taking out a bit of the high end, and this is how it sounds without the mastering. And with the mastering. It's not a big difference, but it sounds way more punchy, way more compressed, and way more vintage, which is the main point. So yeah, I'm gonna leave the sample in the description. You can get it for free. And yeah, until next time.